Good morning. It is March 23rd. You see, 2:30 a.m. Today is the beginning of it all, I think. But let's go downstairs so that way we can talk more freely. Derek and Esme are still asleep. I'm 41 and 6 today, and my whole pregnancy with Esme and then this pregnancy up until a few days ago, I was told by several midwives at the place I go that 42 weeks is the cutoff, and that was just my understanding. It was the cutoff because that's just like what the hospital did. Obviously I know why that's the cutoff. Once you hit 42 weeks, there is a slight increase in the risk of stillbirth, and just some other things too. But I'm personally comfortable with going over 42 weeks because I am healthy, low risk pregnancy, baby boy is healthy. We've been doing BPPs, so like the biophysical, I forget what it stands for, but basically where they check his movement, the water, and they make sure he's doing like practice breathing and all that good stuff. So it's like basically an ultrasound where it's a really good test to see how baby's doing, and it kind of is what dictates if your midwife or OB is going to tell you, hey, I think it's time to induce, or it's time to have this baby or whatever. So I just did my last BPP on Friday. Today is now Monday, and everything was great. He's been passing 10 out of 10 forever. He still had down, all that good stuff, and so everything was looking good. And so for those reasons I am okay being over 42 weeks, but I didn't think I could be. Well, Friday we learned from a different midwife that actually that is just hospital procedure, but technically you can go over 42 weeks, and if you show up at the hospital in labor, they're not going to turn you away. So anyway, this kind of set me down a spiral because it was like a last minute change of information, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to plan now. This whole time I've been planning that I was going to have an induction by 42. It's not necessarily the case. You know, the midwife had told me how there have been plenty of moms, healthy young moms, who went over 42 weeks and they still delivered and everything was fine, because the risk doesn't even go up that much if you're healthy and baby's healthy and all that good stuff. Like, I have a doula. I've been working with her for this pregnancy as well, but also I'm in training to be a birth doula. So I've been learning a lot of things too. And in my pregnancy, as of right now, I know my risk, and I know, and I know like things that are applicable to me in my situation. So don't take this as like medical advice or anything like that. Like, definitely speak with your OB or midwife for your situation if you're watching this and you're expecting. But anyway, my doula, actually every pregnancy, like after her first, she said that it went longer, and so one of her babies she was 42 and 6, 42 weeks and 6 days. And you know, like, there's a lot of pressure on women in the US to have your baby by 40 weeks. That day is not the most accurate if you didn't know that. And you know, 41 weeks used to be the like expected due date, and now it's like dropped down to 40. But then there's people getting elective inductions when there's nothing wrong, but they just don't want to be pregnant anymore at like 37 weeks. And so and there's just a lot of pressure to have your baby as soon as possible, when the reality of, you know, 36 weeks ish, your baby starts going through major neurological development. And so the longer that you can stay pregnant, if everything's healthy, you know, good blood pressure, no worries about anything, good position, no gestational diabetes, like all, like, right, a really good pregnancy, it's okay to go longer. And honestly, it's better to do that to give your baby more chance to develop, and not only neurologically but the lungs and physically, just there's a lot of things that go into it that aren't really talked about a whole lot. And I think something for me too that really pushed me to become a doula was my experience, and how I noticed how my experience was really similar to a lot of women on social media, where you kind of don't get a lot of information unless you ask your OB or your midwife about it. And a lot of things I ran into, and I use midwives too, so that they're supposed to be, I would say, just maybe slightly more natural or holistic approaching than like an OB. And if you didn't know, the biggest difference between an OB and a midwife is the OB is the one who's granted to perform a C-section if need be, but a midwife cannot. So that is like the biggest difference. And then so like I said, yeah, I've been using midwives, and so I've got like more of the natural holistic approach to those things, to pregnancy in general. But I didn't get a lot of information. I would learn something from my doula, or learn something that I researched myself, talk to my midwife, and a lot of the time the answer was, oh, yeah, or I don't know, or I'd have to look into that for you, or no, yeah, or yeah, there is only a slight risk, and it's true, like, you are healthy, but that's just whatever. Or a lot of answers also came down to, well, that's just how we do it here, you know. And so basically I noticed a lot of people, and I think this goes for a lot of things like in the medical industry, like at least at the common folk area. I'm not talking about like your specialist who are, you know, been putting years and years and years into like cardiology, where they could, like, that's their thing, you know. I'm kind of talking more so on like the generic level of like your pediatricians, you know, your OBs, where they have like their idea, where they have their area, but they haven't done like extra, and I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. I'm just saying they're not as specialized as a cardiologist with like 10 extra years of follow-on strictly cardiology things. You know what I'm trying to say? And I'm not, again, this isn't like for everyone. This is just what I've experienced and in my area, and I've noticed some women experience this too. But basically it comes down to the midwives and OBs are really just teaching policy and procedure, not necessarily like teaching and like giving you information. And so like, and a lot of it is fear-based things. Like, you hear a lot of the fear-based things. Like, if I were to tell you, hey, if you go past 42 weeks, your placenta is going to stop working, you're more likely to hemorrhage, you are more likely to have a stillbirth, and like, you just hear these things, and as a mom, like, you just start to panic, and it's really scary, because of course like, you want the best thing for you and for baby, and so you get scared, and you get fearful, and you get anxious, and you're just gonna do whatever they suggest, which I'm not saying to go against your OB or your midwife or anything. I'm just saying I think it's really important that you question everything, especially when it comes down to your health and your baby's health. So yes, your risk of stillbirth goes up, like I was saying, after you hit 42 weeks, but it's insanely minimal compared to how stressful they make that sound. And I'm not gonna try to spit statistics out right now for you, because I am like super sleepy and I haven't been sleeping great for the past few weeks. And I don't wanna mess it up and deter you, but when I'm telling you it was really significant, it was like a 0.2 increase for stillbirths with healthy low-risk pregnancies, a 0.2. Which, like, granted, a 0.2 out of like 100,000 people is still, those are still affecting people, but 0.2 is just very low risk, right? And so they don't tell you those things. And so what they should be doing is telling you, hey, for your situation, for your pregnancy, for you and for your baby, I think you're at more risk for this, or I think you're at lower risk for this, and it might be safe to do this. But instead, I don't think they look at case-by-case situations. It's just kind of a blanket, this is what we do for everybody, and not everybody's the same. Every pregnancy is different, you know, every person's different, and I think it should be really treated that way. But anyway, that was really frustrating for me, especially because I was learning so much, and I'm not the type of person to completely rule out like oh, well, I know more than my midwife because I did a 20-minute research study or whatever. I'm not that at all. I can appreciate science and medicine. I just like to question things and understand why before I do it, especially because if you ever looked at maternal health in general and like pregnancies and postpartum and all that stuff, there's a lot of things that are still being practiced that are just outdated in general. And I don't think it's a bad thing to, you know, do more research, get more development, do different studies and be like, hey, we've been doing something like this for 20 years and actually we've just learned that there is a better way to do this. You know, people used to think smoking cigarettes was good for you and now we know it's not, and things have changed, you know? And so just being open-minded, as long as you feel comfortable and like with the research, like you being able to make that decision and talk to your midwife about it or your OB about it, I think is really important. I'm not the type of person to think that I'm better or smarter than them or have more experience than them, because I can definitely respect that they got way more schooling and all that type of stuff. However, what makes me kind of squirrely is when I am in doula training and doing research on my own and I have questions or I want to verify or just ask what their thoughts are about something that I've seen. I take it to them and they're like, oh, I don't know. Or, yeah, that's true, but this is just how we do it here. So I'm like, well, if that's true, then why are we doing it like this, you know? And so when I would ask those things and try to like, you know, trust the professionals, I didn't really get good answers. And so that just made me more leery. I still trust them, obviously, but it just makes me more leery and it makes me want to sit on decisions a little bit longer than I would before. That's really it. This is a lot of rambling to come down to the birth story vlog, which this is really what you're here for. So like I said, I'm 41 and 6, and I thought this whole time that I had to be induced by 42 weeks. Turns out I don't. And so I really, really was anxious and wrestling with what to do. There are obviously, basically it comes down to get an induction or don't get an induction, but there's a lot of layers to those things. So for me, a lot of the reasons to not get an induction is I'm healthy, low risk, baby's doing good. Like I was saying, those BPPs are great. And honestly, I could keep going. Like, I think part of being a mom is being able to, you know, go through a little bit of the crap if it makes your, you know, your kid better and it makes something better. A little bit of that selfless love, you know. I mean, pregnancy in general isn't always the most fun. And so, of course, you're already being, like, selfless and doing all those things, making sure you're eating right and drinking right and hydrating and moving and all these things. Like, there's a lot of things that you have to do as a mom to try to ensure the health of your baby. And that looks different for everybody. I'm not saying if you don't go past 40 weeks, you're a bad mom. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, for me, knowing that he's going to keep developing neurologically and there's a lot of benefits for him staying in there, and going over 40 weeks is a good sign of health, that I was okay with going over. There are plenty of people who go over. Kenya's due date is 43 weeks actually, so I'm not even technically like coming up on a concerning time frame. France is 41 weeks. The US used to have a 41-week due date. So I'm not really concerned about the actual time. It really just comes down to I'm in a lot of pain, like physically, my hips and my back, and just baby boys, he's a heavy. That's been really hard. But also I am a stay-at-home mom and I go to school at home and I have like a 14-month-old, and so doing that with just her and I all day, like while my husband's at work, has just been really hard, and it's getting harder and harder every day. And so to think about having to do that maybe another week or whatever, it's really hard to walk into that situation because I know my patience is thin, I don't feel good, and I'm grouchy, and I don't want my daughter to like be around me and like be around that version of me her last few weeks where it's just her and I. And so those were honestly that, and then the person who is watching our daughter when we go into the hospital and all that good stuff, you know, this is just a really good time for her as far as like work and all that good stuff. And so I'm not having my baby based off of, her specifically, but that is like one of the pros of going in and not going past 42, just because it works out really well with the time frame. My husband is also about to get out of the Marine Corps, and so things are about to be really hectic with planning our move and all that good stuff. And so kind of being ready to move on to the next chapter of, hey, we have our baby and now we can just focus on recovery and moving and all that good stuff is kind of what we're thinking. And then of course I just really want to meet my baby boy. I'm super excited to meet him. I think pregnancy is so like beautiful in a way. If you really get to bond and get to know baby, but you don't get to meet them truly until they're born. And so I can't wait for that. And also he was measuring 7 pounds at 36 weeks. And I know that's an estimate and that can be off plus or minus a pound, but that was 6 weeks ago. And so, if they say they gain half a pound a week, then we're kind of getting close to a big baby, okay? I mean, 9 to 10 pounds already is a big baby, but like part of me was like, oh, I don't want you to be any bigger. So those are basically my reasons for why I do want to go ahead and like get induced at 42 weeks. One thing with the induction is I am trying to avoid hormonal induction procedures first. So Pitocin is very, very last on the docket. I could get into all the nerdy reasons and the science behind it, and the stories of, my midwife saying, yeah, we don't really recommend Pitocin unless you need it, and everything that I'm saying, by the way, is for my specific case. Like, I know I said that, but I'm going to keep emphasizing it. My specific situation, low risk pregnancy, healthy, everything's doing great. That's not the case for everybody. I understand, like, if you have a medical emergency or like high blood pressure or gestational diabetes, you need to get induced for the safety. Like, that's 100% valid, and I'm not trying to diminish that in any way or make anyone feel bad about that in any way. Again, just my specific situation, there's really no need yet to pump myself full of Pitocin. So basically the idea is, and I'm going to try to not nerd out about all of the science with everything, but basically Pitocin is a synthetic version of oxytocin, which, if you didn't know, oxytocin is the feel-good hormone, and when you're relaxing and all that good stuff, and that's the hormone that really starts labor. Your baby sends off like a hormonal signal to mom, oxytocin's flowing, and then boom, labor is started. So that is the idea of Pitocin, of we'll just give you, here's some oxytocin is what they'll say, but it's not oxytocin, it's synthetic. And it mimics oxytocin in a way of, it'll create contractions, but they'll be very robotic and they'll be a lot more intense. And for me, I'm trying to not get the epidural. And so it's really important for me that I can try to make this labor as manageable as possible. So knowing that by taking Pitocin, I'm going to more than likely make my contractions more painful, harder to manage, and less natural, I'm not setting myself up the way that I want to. Also, the moment you introduce interventions like Pitocin, you are increasing your chances of needing other interventions like forceps, vacuum, C-section. And again, I'm not saying all of those things are bad. I'm just saying for me personally, I want to avoid those. So that's why I'm trying to minimize Pitocin. So the thinking here was, okay, I want to do as less hormonal induction methods as possible. So I'm actually starting off with a membrane sweep, and there is risk with that. Obviously there's risk with everything. And one thing for me that I was really juggling in particular is with the membrane sweep, there's risk of infection. I don't really care about that part that much. But I am more worried about them accidentally popping my water. So what they do is if your cervix is open enough, they go in and they, like in your cervix, and they physically sweep like on the outside of the amniotic sac and like the wall, and basically separate the amniotic sac in hopes that it starts labor. Because I'm so far along and baby's so low and all that, there's a good chance that I could do that. At the same time, membrane sweeps to start labor have been measured to be less effective, around like 20-ish%. But I think that number, don't quote me, but I do believe that number is looked more at like the elective inductions, like between 37 and 39 weeks when bodies might not be ready. So what does that number look like for someone who's 42 weeks, like my situation? Who knows? I'm hoping that's all I need, because it's less invasive compared to all of the other induction methods. But if that doesn't work, so basically the idea is I'm going to get the membrane sweep, I'm going to walk around, move around a lot. If that doesn't start anything, at some point between today and tomorrow, I'm supposed to get a call and saying, hey, we're ready for your induction. That's literally how it works here. You get put on a time slot for either this day or this day, and they call you 2 hours before you come in, which is kind of hectic. So anyway, we're staying in that area because we live like an hour and a half away from the hospital that we wanted to go to, and so we're just staying at a hotel and staying in that area and being on standby. So if that doesn't work, then there's other options like a Foley balloon or the Cook catheter, which is where they just kind of stick like a balloon inside your cervix and they fill it with liquid, and as it like expands, it dilates you. So it could dilate you up to 5 to 6 centimeters, which is really great. And at that point, you'd think your body kind of like, oh, okay, we're getting this thing going, here we go. And so that is option 2 for me. And then option 3, we have like a Cervidil strip, which is basically just like a strip that they put on your cervix. It releases prostaglandins, which is basically what ripens your cervix, and hopefully that opens your cervix and starts getting it dilated to start labor. Then you've got like your Cytotec pill, which is supposed to be this similar thing, however it's not FDA approved, and you put the pill there and you need like 5 to 6, like you get it basically like every 30 minutes to like 45 minutes, depending on the place. And it's supposed to do the same thing, but it's not really as effective as a Cervidil strip. So anyway, that's the plan of everything. And then if we get down to the very like nitty gritty of it and he's just not coming out and not budging, then I think we're gonna look at Pitocin. So that's the order of things. Obviously there's risk with everything you do, but I'm trying to start at the least risky and move forward. I'm not saying if you get the Cytotec pill or the Cervidil strip from the get-go, you're wrong and something's gonna go bad. I'm just doing like a risk analysis for me and my comfortability, and that's how we're moving forward. Anyway, it's now 3 o'clock, and basically what we need to do this morning is we're gonna get ready. I got a spray tan yesterday, and so I need a shower. Especially if someone's gonna be up in there and like swiping around, like I want to make sure it's cleanly. So I'm gonna shower and then pack the rest of my toiletries, finish setting up last minute stuff for the people who are coming in and watching our dogs for us. I need to do my lashes. I just do lash closure, so it's gonna take me a couple of minutes, but I'm gonna do that. Then we're gonna eat breakfast and then drop Esme off with our friend. That's probably like the really sad part. The part that I'm not the most prepared for is leaving Esme and knowing that I don't have a specific time where I'm going to get to see her again. It could be 1 day or 3 days, and so that's really hard. And being like a stay-at-home mom, she's always with me, and so like the most she's ever been away from me was like 2 hours, but that was like while I was at a nail appointment and my husband was home. And so she's only been away from us like an hour, like legitimately only like an hour to 2 hours or whatever, when we did like a practice run with our friend to see how she did when we weren't there. She said she did great and she was playing with like her kids and all that, so I shouldn't be as worried. But it's just something about like leaving your baby and hoping that they're not like afraid or confused of where's my mom and dad. So just knowing that I'm really empathetic for her. And I was actually like really conflicted, and I really thought about just holding on to her, like keeping her with us, even like during the membrane sweep, because there's a chance that it's not going to do anything, and then we're going to just be waiting around all day. And so I really wanted to just hold on to her with us in case the day ends up being a wash. She's with us and she's not having an extra day of wondering where her parents are. And for me, like, I know that brought on more chaos as far as trying to meet up with our friend and like all the contingencies of, well, what if you do go into labor, or what if your water breaks when they do the membrane sweep and it starts just like that, or like whatever. Like, even though I knew it wasn't the most logistically feasible option, that's really what my heart wanted to do. And for me, I think like what brings me peace is knowing that my daughter feels better and she's in a better position mentally. She's not confused. Like, I'd rather be logistically like, okay, this is a little bit more chaotic if that means that she's a little bit happier just for a few hours or whatever. But after talking like with my friend again and Derek, we were just like, okay, it just makes more sense logistically to do this because you never know what's going to happen, and it's better to not have to worry about it in the moment. So yeah, I'm really struggling with that, and it's probably going to be hard when we drop her off. So, but anyway, I know this was a super long introduction, but one thing I really wanted to focus on for this birth vlog is giving as much information and backstory as possible, because I don't feel like I did that as well in my first birth vlog, and so I had to type a lot of comments and put it on the screen, and so I'm trying to avoid that this time. But it's just me. Esme and Derek are still asleep, and so I wanted to take this time to just drink my raspberry leaf tea and just really like put my mind and my heart in a calmer place, because there are risks with the membrane sweep, of course. Like I was saying, like, I'm nervous about my water breaking. That's how my water ended up breaking with my last pregnancy. When I was at the hospital, they did a cervical check, and I only did like 2 cervical checks the whole time. Like when I got checked in, and then like after like 12 hours, and surely enough, the midwife accidentally broke my water when she checked. And so I do have a strong bag of water, so obviously I'm at 42 weeks and my water hasn't broken or anything, but because he's so low and so heavy, there's a good chance that my waters are like bulging, as in like they're just really close to the cervix, or if I'm dilated at all, like already there. So there is the risk of that, especially because it happened last time. That's like all I can think about, and so it makes me nervous. And once your water breaks, you kind of get put on a clock when your water breaks, because then, you know, there's a lot of concern of infection. Without that water to move around, baby has a really hard time of maneuvering. And if you don't know, like when you're in labor, that's when baby does a lot of maneuvering to get into a good position and to get into the birth canal and all those good things. And so not having water there could make or break if he is able to get his arm, you know, back, or if he's got his arm by his face, like moving it, like, you know, you kind of need like that liquid to be able to move. And so that's kind of my biggest concern, is my water gets broken, an accident, and now he has a harder time maneuvering how he needs to, and so the birth might be more painful, or he might not be in an optimal position now, and so they might have to, like, well, his head's up, so we can't do this, or we're gonna do a C-section, or, you know, it's gonna be more painful. That's kind of my concern. But again, because I know a lot more around everything, I think, and I'm stressing about it, I tend to fixate on what could go wrong, because I'm trying to make a decision on what should I do, and so I'm looking at the risk, like the pros and the cons of every situation. And of course, as a mom, you know, you're thinking of your kid and you're thinking of your health. Like, you can just see the negatives a lot more than you can the positives. For me, that's how it is anyway. And so fixating on all these negative things that could happen for each situation has really caused me to like freak out in a way. And I didn't think I was going to be in this situation, and so the unpredictability and like knowing the risk of every situation just makes me freak out a little bit. But overall, things could go really well, you know. And so that's what I'm doing this morning, is I'm just really taking, you know, 20 minutes to just pray and, you know, lay everything at the feet of Jesus and just like talk about how I'm feeling, pray over the day, pray over my daughter, staying with our friend, and just taking the last minute of, okay, like talking to baby boy. I just really want to be intentional about this, because if I get my membrane sweep today and he ends up coming, you know, this could be the last day. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. Yeah, thanks for listening to my long synopsis of everything. I also got my nails done yesterday, so we're doing like this cyan blue for him. I think it's just like a really cute thing. I actually got this on my nails like 3 weeks ago because I was thinking, oh, he might come at any time, and so I actually had to go back and get a fill and get the same color, which I hate getting like duplicate colors like back to back to back, but I really wanted to have blue when he was born, so I had to do that again, which I kind of thought that was funny. For me, I just really wanted to make it a whole event, so I've got like my nails are done, which my nails are done most of the time anyway, but like I've got a fresh set on my nails, I got a spray tan, and I'm gonna do my makeup and I'm gonna do my hair. With just making it an event feels so fun, and it feels really exciting, and in a way I like the idea of thinking like I'm looking my best when I get to meet my son. Obviously he's gonna have some blurry vision and he's not gonna know, oh, mom did her hair, but it's just kind of like a small thing that I think makes the whole experience like more fun. It's also just a good distraction, you know, when you're in early labor. I don't want to be fixating on like the contractions, and when I fix on it and tense up, they will feel worse than they actually are, and so I'm trying to avoid that. So anyway, that's something good too. I didn't clarify, so I'm just getting a membrane sweep at my clinic today, and so I'm 41 and 6, but tomorrow I hit 42 weeks, and after 42 weeks I cannot get any more prenatal care at my clinic, so I can't go in for any ultrasounds or anything like that. And that's part of the decision too, of after 42 weeks, if I kept going, I wouldn't be able to check on him, and I didn't like that. So anyway, today we are just doing the membrane sweep, and then there is an induction scheduled, but hopefully we don't need it, and we don't know if it's today or tomorrow because they just call us like 2 hours before. I don't know if I said that already, but then if nothing happens and we get the call for the induction either today or tomorrow, we're gonna go to that. So I wasn't clear, but I wanted to make sure that you guys knew what the plan was. Okay, ignore how dirty the mirror is. I basically live with 2 toddlers, but we're all ready to go. Showered, did my lashes, tacked the last bit of our stuff. See? You can go bye-byes. Yeah.
Hi, can I get 2 of the spinach feta egg white wraps?
So, labor and delivery just called. We're gonna go straight to the hospital and start with the membrane sweep there instead of doing the membrane sweep at the clinic. But we're at Starbucks and we haven't dropped Esme off yet, so we're gonna drop Esme off and then head into labor and delivery.
You ready?
It feels like more real being in the car.
Yeah.
Okay, we just dropped Esme off. I'm glad I like got all my crying out earlier, so that way it's like a little easier now. But it was good. It really helped like ahead of time having Esme over at their house a lot, so that way it was really familiar. And then we rolled right into her morning routine. So like we turned on her little show, and then I gave her breakfast and stuff. So I think that helped too, make it feel like more normal for her. Sorry, my camera isn't focusing, but her car seat's gone. It looks so empty in here now. But now it's time to like give baby, well, I guess we can say his name because by the time I post this, everyone will know his name.
Yeah.
So it feels good to be able to focus on Roman so much more now that like I know Esme's safe and like playing with other kids and like doing other things. So now I feel like I'm giving Roman the due diligence that he deserves, you know, like on his birthday, potential birthday. So yeah, he's been moving around a bunch. Maybe he knows, or maybe he's like, I'm gonna be stubborn, Mom, I'm not coming. We'll see. But anyway, we're on our way to the hospital now. We just got here, and I kind of already knew this was gonna happen because I've been talking to my doula already, but she had a client who his baby isn't due until later, but there was like a medical necessity for an induction, which happens to also be today. And so she is like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from here at that induction. And so there's a likelihood that she won't be able to make it here in time for mine if things happen to go quickly. If mine is really slow and the other ladies is really quickly, she might be able to make it. But anyway, we're kind of preparing for the worst case scenario, which would be her not coming. But luckily I have my own TENS unit and comb in some things, and this is my second time with her, and so I've got some knowledge too from that and experience from that. So it's not ideal, and I was really stressing about this the other day, but I don't know, I just feel like God's really given me like a lot of peace over this whole thing. And like even just walking up here for like the induction, like I just feel a lot calmer than I was anticipating. So anyway, we're gonna get everything out of the car and head in. Okay, we're here. Last time I was in this parking lot, I was having crazy contractions, and it was like 2 a.m. Crazy. Okay, so we got in and they told us that they don't have any rooms cleaned. So we are in the lobby waiting, but we went ahead and filled out the paperwork for after, for like the birth certificate and all that. So that's nice, that's already done. We're checked in. Just gonna change over. Okay, so it's now 11:51. Basically the midwife came in and we talked about like our game plan, and we did a membrane sweep, and almost right away I started contracting. So I'm still contracting. Obviously I can like talk through them, so that's good. But she said I'm already 5 centimeters, 75% effacement, -2 station. So that's really exciting. But I don't think my doula is gonna make it then. Like if I'm already 5 centimeters and already contracting and stuff. So I've got like the wireless monitor on my belly. Let me see. I'm not trying to flash the camera, but I've got the wire. Oh, there we go. You can kind of see. I've got like the wireless monitor on my belly, so I'm gonna move around. I've got the yoga ball. If I get like tired of standing, but I've got like a list of different like laboring positions and like stretches and stuff to do to try to help, as well as I might hop on the toilet for the dilation station, because they call it that because it just helps you dilate a lot quicker. But typically like 0 to what they say 6 dilation is the slower, harder part. So hopefully from here it's just a little bit easier. But I am a little nervous thinking about like how fast it could potentially go, and I guess just like mentally preparing for that, like if it happens really fast, and making sure my mind like keeps up with, nope, we're having a baby like right now, this is happening, you know. And that probably means that contractions are going to pick up really fast intensity and stuff, like all that good stuff. But I'm really excited because we haven't done like technically any induction procedures yet, because the membrane sweep, even though I kind of consider it part of the induction, because like that is what I did to help get things going, but I haven't done any hormonal things yet, even just like the prostaglandin stuff, like feeling really happy about that. I'm hoping today's the day, March 23rd.
Yeah. For all in all likelihood, based on these contraction back to back, you're within what, like a minute and a half to 2 minutes.
Yeah. But they're still like talk throughable.
Yeah, they're not super intense, but they're coming close, so things are still progressing, so that's good.
Hopefully, yeah. They said I could keep eating, like if I needed to eat, but I just took a dump. And so like now that my system's kind of cleared, like I don't know that I want to like fill it back up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I've got honey sticks for some energy, and I'm going to hydrate and focus on that, because energy is really important. But I'm also just not trying to like crap all over the place.
Yeah, you also didn't have to get the IV. They were kind of pressuring that.
Yeah, which I understand, like having the IV in place and ready, you know, for like an emergency situation or whatever. And so if we decide that we need to move on with another induction method that has a little bit more risk than just a membrane sweep, then we might place IV just so that way it's like in there and everything's good to go. So we're gonna go back over like our budget and stuff, and so just like talking about normal everyday stuff and like kind of being productive is what I like to do best to pass the time. That, maybe scroll on some social media in between, because I don't feel like I need to focus so much right now on like getting through the contractions. So honestly, I probably should be resting, but I really, really want to stay upright. And I don't want to get in the bed and try to like rest, but slow down the thing. So I think for most of my resting right now is just going to be sitting on the yoga ball. All right, so we're going to do some lift and tucks. This is basically what we're trying to achieve here. It helps lift baby to get more engaged past the pelvis. The contractions have been consistent like the whole time, and the longest stretch in between was like 3-ish minutes. Like it hasn't been crazy at all. So still have only gotten the membrane sweep. They are starting to like kind of rush me, and I feel like I'm getting really close to having to like flip the big switch, because in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't been very long at all. I don't know what it is with this time though. Like everything is a lot more manageable, and so I haven't been like fully able to like accept that I'm making progress, because last time when I was barely making progress, like I was miserable. But this time making progress and it's just way more manageable. So I don't know, a whole nother different experience. And it really is true what they say about every like pregnancy and delivery is different. Like I wasn't able to talk like this in between between contractions last time, like at all. But also that was because they were really close, and like these ones, like I actually have like a minute between or whatever. Which actually this one's been a little longer, about 2 minutes now. But and the biggest thing is ever since the membrane sweep, like contractions have been going, and so she was like, well, let it be known for the record, like first induction with the membrane sweep. Which they do membrane sweeps all the time, but normally people just go home and then they show back up at the hospital with an active labor. So it's like, I'm sure it's induced people for, hold on, can you talk? I'm having a contraction.
Yeah, so she said, yeah, on the record for being an induction, but it happened so fast, because I think, oh wow, that is way close. We were about 20 minutes after the membrane sweep that she started having contractions, and then things have been like steadily progressing since, and things are definitely picking up, because like an hour and a half ago she was able to talk through her contractions. It's like, oh, I'm kind of having a contraction, and like somewhat of a difference, but now she's having to breathe through them, focus on them, and just trying not to tense up and things. So the intensity is definitely picking up, and so I think that's definitely helping them make progress towards the end goal.
Yeah.
And
it's so
it's
trippy
going.
how like you'll have a contraction and you're like, oh, okay, and then you're done and you're like, what was it?
Yeah, like where was I?
Yeah, I got like the biggest task on my mind right now is like one, staying upright to let gravity help and move around a lot, because movement's really good, but also just keeping my mind at bay. I think this time has been a game changer, because like there's definitely like that pit in my chest that's like wanting me to freak out and like get anxious and like spiral, and I keep telling myself like, no, it's fine, we're gonna do this, okay, like. So it really, really, really is mental. And like last time, I don't think I really grasped that, because I didn't really do anything different to prepare this time mentally that I did last time. So it's just truly understanding how mental it is, and like you really have to kind of like game talk yourself, or what is it called? Pep talk yourself.
Pep talk.
You really have to pep talk yourself into being like, hey, your mind's gonna start freaking out. Like this is gonna start happening. Like don't tense up, relax, and like stay in control of your mind. Like that is so huge for me. And I think even like up to this point, like we haven't even, you know, gone like into the actual like pushing and stuff like that yet, but just even getting up to here, it's a huge game changer. And so I think that would be like my biggest piece of advice so far to anybody, is to like make sure you are prepared to start controlling your mind. And like you have to really be in tune with yourself to know, okay, I'm freaking out a little bit, okay, how do I calm myself down? But anyway,
It's like gaslighting yourself, but like a
Honestly.
positive connotation.
what do they call it? Like the positive version of gaslighting.
Manifestation.
Manifestation, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really use that word because it gives me the ick, but it's like a similar thing. But anyway, we're gonna eat. You're gonna show them our scrumptious food.
Yeah.
We didn't bring like food because for some reason I was thinking they weren't gonna let me eat, or like there wasn't gonna be a fridge, and so then like not trying to deal with the cooler. Hold on, I'm having a contraction.
Yeah. So we brought snacks and stuff to kind of sustain small bites and, you know, just keep the energy going and keep the satiation there. But kind of got to the point where, well, we want to save those snacks for later, just in case we have those, like when we get to the post delivery room and have some stuff of our own. But they offered us some more sustenance foods, more sustainable food, and we're gonna take them up on it because it was offered, and gonna be keep us going and keep the stuff that we brought for later. So, yeah, I'm telling you, those contractions are picking up.
But yeah, anyway, I don't know. I also get the ick. Like I remember from like my last vlog, like watching myself editing the video, just watching myself have a contraction. I was like, ew. So I'm trying not to record as much of that, just because it feels almost as icky as like people who sit up to the camera to cry for like a reel or something. Like that's what it's equivalent to. I know I need to get over that because this is like a birth vlog and that's part of it. So I will work on that, I promise.
Well, also you can help some people show like how you deal with the contractions and stuff. 'Cause
Yeah,
some people,
I
like,
see the
grit through it.
benefits.
Yeah.
I can see the benefits, and I think that is like a big difference too. Like last time, I would like tense up and like grit through the contraction, and it literally I think made them worse. So this time, really like relaxing your shoulders and deep breaths, and I think that's going to be such a game changer like moving forward. But due to show them our setup, we're gonna watch some NCIS and try to distract and pass the time.
Got the food, got the waters. I forgot mine, so they provided theirs, and yeah, we got the home setup.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm gonna sit on the ball. I noticed when I was relaxing, my contractions weren't as like consistent, but they were a lot stronger. So just being able to like relax, it really does do a difference. And so that's kind of what I've been doing, is like I'll get up, move around, walk, lunch, dilation station, or whatever, and then I'll come back and then I'll do like, I'm just gonna relax, where I'm still upright, but like just being able to relax and like be off my feet, I think is like really big. And just having that balance where you're not in one spot too long, because I don't want to like mentally burn out by like having so many contractions and like dilating like super fast, but I don't want to like be in the bed too long where I'm like stalling labor. So
But also it's a mental break. You're like, oh, it's time to do this. Oh, it's time to do this. Time to do this. So it's
yeah, and like
distract.
constantly changing it, I think has been really nice. I've been trying not to think about Esme. Like it kind of keeps coming up. I'm like, nope. So that's how I've been able to get through that, because I don't want to think about it because I'll cry. Not that I'm worried about her well-being, just like I wish she was here, but also all this like makes me think of her, you know, and like
Because last time we were here, you were bringing her into the world.
yeah, and so I'm just really excited. So yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, we're gonna watch some NCIS, and then I gotta get up and start moving around and stuff like that. It's only been, well, now it's been 4 hours. It's been 4 hours, and like I feel like there's just been so much more progress, which is cool. Like second time births are so much better than first so far, so that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, and let me say one more thing. When I was getting, when I was getting checked, It has. That's one thing I've noticed this time is like I don't know if it's just because like there's like a different midwife, but like the cervical checks have been way more intense, like really painful. Like it honestly felt like the membrane sweep, and so again, I don't know if it's just the person I have, but like the membrane sweep was intense, like so intense. Like she was like pressing on my belly. Yeah, I guess I wasn't expecting the membrane sweep to be intense, but if that's something that you're gonna do, I think mentally prepare for it. It could be intense, not like unmanageable because it is like relatively quick, but it's just a lot more intense than I was expecting. So I think it caught me off guard where I was like, what the fuck?
Can you rate it out of 10 just to give somebody some like perspective on it?
Almost like a 9, like not to be dramatic, but it's more so just like how fast it happens and like with like if you're pushing or having a contraction like and you like lean into the contraction to like make it stronger, like you can kind of like correlate, okay, I'm doing this with the pain, I'm doing more of this, so that's why there's more pain. But like with that, like it's just being done to you and it's like really quick, and so I think those factors go into it too. But yeah, it was crazy. I still feel like, generally speaking, a lot like happier, uplifted than last time at this point. I can start to feel myself get like more irritable, and I think that tracks because like the contractions are like getting really strong, and I'm feeling the pressure in the butt. What I'm doing now is like 30 minutes of sitting in the butterfly position and like kind of relaxing, being off my feet, and then 30 minutes of like upright movement. And then the 30 minutes of upright movement is 10 minutes on the toilet, like just sitting, because like the dilation station, I'm telling you, I really do feel it, the difference when I'm on that thing. And then 10 minutes of like on the ball doing like front to back pelvic tilts and side to side, and then 10 minutes of like just walking. So breaking it up frequently I think really helps the mental to be like, okay, we're gonna keep doing this, and then now do this, and now do this, and so it breaks it up. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, and it's been working so far. Now I'm feeling the contractions like front to like my sides, and then sometimes I feel it in my back, and then like my butt too.
How does that differ from last time?
Like last time it was all just like centered, like right here, like in the front, and so because it was more like localized, I think it felt more intense, if that makes sense. But also, looking back, I had like poly, so I had a lot of water, so those were probably just like ineffective contractions. And so I really think this time having like no polys really helped. But
Poly.
Also, I forget, what is it?
Polyhydramnios, I believe.
Yeah, I always say it wrong.
So extra water.
Water in here, yeah, extra water. But which I had it with both kids, but not because of anything. Like sometimes if you have gestational diabetes, you might have that, or if like you have a baby with like was it Down syndrome maybe that might cause that. I don't remember, but or baby's kidneys aren't working. Like
Not
that.
Swallowing fluid, breathing it in,
Yeah,
stays in there. Yep.
Yeah, and that could be a thing. So, but another thing too with this time is I drank a lot more of the raspberry leaf tea, did a lot more of the evening primrose oil.
How much more?
A fuck ton more. But I really do think that's helped as far as like my contractions being more effective, if that makes sense. But at the same time, like anybody's guess is as good as mine at this point, because you don't actually know. Like there are so many factors of like, is it because it's baby number 2? Is it because you drank more tea and took evening primrose oil? Or is it because you don't have poly? Or it's because it's a boy? Or is he in a better position? Like, there's so many different things, and like there's no way of actually knowing.
You have like anecdotal, oh, well, I did this and this is different, but you have no way of knowing or proving.
Right. And even if I did everything the same, like you could still have a completely different birth. So it really just, there's so many things that can dictate it.
Every pregnancy is different.
Yeah. In a way, I'm like glad I got more back labor this time, because it's almost like a familiar pain when you're like rack pulling or like deadlifting or something and your back is really tight and like achy. Like it's almost like that. So it's like a familiar pain.
There was an edge to our existence. It was a rediscovery of the fundamental truth. We are ultimately bound and demanding more every day. I spent the latter half of the 1970s traveling the world, making a series of
What's up?
But you're chilling.
Hey. Wow. Good job.
She's doing awesome.
You're doing
Glad
awesome.
you made it here safe. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I was in a television studio when the Apollo mission launched. It was the first time that any human moved away far enough from the Earth to see the whole planet. Which means irresistible. Their display will help her find the fittest male in the group. But her decision comes at a price. Exactly to make this message heard. The yellow cheeked, crested gibbon moves to a higher position where the drapery is less dense.
Oh my god.
Here. He's almost here.
It's coming. You'll get a rush of energy soon, okay?
You're doing this.
Oh.
You're doing this,
Everything
honey.
right.
You're doing it.
Oh my god.
Got it, baby.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry, girl.
oh baby.
You just didn't want to come out with you on your hands and knees. Can you roll down? You did great.
Can I roll over?
Yes. You got it, baby. You got it.
Hey buddy.
You did so good.
Happy birthday.
Shaky, 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 mama.